Hey, okay, so part two. I'll try to make this not as long and rambling, but I just found it interesting because there was another guy who was just a friend who reached out to me recently. We'd been friends on Facebook for a long time. Um, we had had a little bit of communication, like, I don't know, but like back like in 2018. He was married with kids, but I knew him when I was like a 16-year-old. No, I was 18, I think. And he was 14 at the time. So he's like a kid, you know. But, so I don't even remember how we got connected on Facebook again, but apparently we had been connected on there since like 2011 or whatever, you know, just living separate lives, not even paying any attention. But he this other guy reached out to me randomly out of the blue and was just like, hey, can you talk in about half an hour? And I'm like, sure. We ended up talking for like 2 hours, exchanging our life stories and just talking. And it was nice, and he was being very encouraging and just very nice to me and very genuine and you know, like supportive, because I was going through something really tough, which I'm still kind of going through, but which I'll talk about later. But he was just saying, you know, hey, you know, hang in there, people care about you, you know, like, don't give up, you know, like, just keep going, blah blah blah, all this kind of, like help, like just being supportive and stuff like that. But I I wondered at that, because with myself I'm like, why was that so much more acceptable than this other guy? And because I really didn't know. I was just like, I don't know. And I was like, well, you know, I looked at our message history and he's like, there was like a message I sent him. The first message I sent him was like in 2015. And it was something like, hey, congrats on your family, blah, 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 whatever. It was just some friendly thing. And he ignored it. And then I sent another message. He ignored it. And then I think the next message was like Happy New Year or something. And then later in January, like January 9th or something, there was like a missed call from him. And I'm like, hey, did you mean to call me? And then like 2 days later, he calls me back, and we spoke for like 20 minutes. Anyway, this guy was like, he was from Australia. So I have a lot of connection with, you know, like I lived there as a kid and stuff. And so I did feel kind of like a connection with him. Plus, I also worked with him kind of out in the country for a little bit. And we never really talked about our personal lives back then at that time. It was just kind of like we would shoot shit and goof around and stuff like that. So I didn't really know much about like his life at the time, but I knew his personality. And so when he reached out to me again, he was like, hey, can we talk in about half an hour? It's like, sure. And it was like, but he was more like, earlier on, he was like kind of very nonchalant, you know, like very, like he ignored me a few times. We did end up talking, and it wasn't anything, any sort of malice or any sort of like he was trying to avoid me or anything like that. He was probably just busy or whatever. And I think when I said Happy New Year's, he was like, oh, hey, I've had a few to drink, you know, I'm not really thinking straight. Yeah, I'll, you know, whatever, I'll message you some other time, you know. And then, you know, like a couple weeks later, that was when we chat for like 20 minutes and just caught up and stuff. Anyway, then it wasn't until yeah, that was like basically the last time we had spoken, which was like 7 years ago. And then, yeah, and then we ended up talking for like 2 hours. We had a lot of shared experiences back in Sydney. So, and then, apparently he'd gone through some similar life experiences later in life as well. So yeah, we ended up talking for a really long time, and it was, we spoke once more the next day because we didn't end up, I don't know, there was like something else we spoke about or something. I don't remember. Anyway, but it was much more acceptable. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I've barely heard from him in the past, 20 years, really, 20, more than that. So it was less like he was more nonchalant, ignoring me, whatever, like a couple times. Anyway, I just was just kind of like, oh yeah, maybe, I just kind of have a thing for assholes, like where guys that like, are super, just whatever, towards me. But then, when you do communicate, it's like, oh yeah, you really, you talk with intention, but like it, whatever, you get busy or whatever, but anyway, so it's just kind of interesting. I know I'm kind of like people would call it overthinking or overanalyzing or whatever. I don't know. I just like to understand thought processes and what makes people tick. So there you go. I probably have more to say, but my next thing is actually going to be a story. So there you go. And it will be scripted. It won't just be me rambling and rattling off garbage. So there we go.